Welcome to another episode of GSC DigiNet. I'm your host, Jim Cavell, and we have a lot to dive into as we have another heated week of GSC men's and women's basketball as we get through January and go on into February and get closer to crowning a 2014 Gulf South Conference men's and women's basketball champion. Of course, that tournament takes place in March. March Madness GSC style is Birmingham, Alabama at Samford University for a second straight season. More information on that coming soon. We'll start on the men's side this week, and number 20 nationally ranked Delta State leads the way, 7-1 in conference play, 14-2 overall. And the biggest news for them, a 6-game winning streak for the Statesmen as they're atop the standings and now the only team nationally ranked in the Gulf South Conference. Behind them, just a game behind them, is West Alabama. And West Alabama, like Delta State, has a nice winning streak going. The Tigers have won 4 in a row, and they're at 6-2 in conference play, 9-5 record overall. And then after that, there's a logjam. And when I say logjam, I mean we have 8 teams at 4 wins. And you have teams like Valdosta State, North Alabama, Christian Brothers, Union, Alabama, Huntsville, West Georgia, Shorter. All these teams with 4 wins can be very interesting down the stretch to see who rises to go to the GSC men's and women's basketball championships this year. The player of the week this past week, Christian Brothers guard Trey Causey. I'll tell you what, this guy can play. And when Trey played last year in the tourney at the GSC championships, he made an impact in all the games leading all the way back to the championship round where Christian Brothers fell in a rematch of that championship match against UAH. But I'll tell you what, this guy is poised and having a great season overall. And so Christian Brothers, once again, really doing well in the Gulf South Conference. They're in the middle of that logjam, and he had 31.5 points per game in his games last week, 62 points overall for Trey Casey. So kudos to him and Christian Brothers as they fight hard down the stretch. On the women's side in Gulf South Conference action, things really interesting with Delta State, a familiar face at the top, 8-0. But behind them are 2 teams that are provisional in the Gulf South Conference. These teams are not eligible to play in the conference tournament. They're not postseason eligible, but Lee and Union, both with 6 and 5 wins respectively, having a really good run in the GSC, both 10-4 overall. West Florida at 5-3 is officially the 2 seed if things ended right now and we started postseason play. Behind them, you have Alabama, Huntsville, Valdosta State, and Christian Brothers all at 4-4. North Alabama at 3-5. So things going to get very interesting on the women's side, like the men's side. After you go past the top few teams, there's a logjam. It's going to be really interesting to see who rises to be top seeds at this year's GSC men's and women's basketball championships. Tessa Holt from the University of West Florida, the senior, had a big week as she led her team with 32 points, recording 6 assists and 4 steals in 2 games, posting 13 points with 4 assists and 2 steals against Shorter this past Thursday. And then against West Georgia, she added 19 points. She gets Player of the Week honors. And that rounds things up as you look at the standings in the Gulf South Conference. We're going to have softball and baseball coming soon. Really get you going on what's going on in those 2 sports as the spring sports get closer. And we're also going to keep you up to date on all that's going on in GSC men's and women's basketball as we get closer to March Madness and yet another round of GSC men's and women's basketball championships. Until then, I'm Jim Cavell, and for everybody at the Gulf South Conference headquarters in Birmingham, you've been watching GSC DigiNet.